May I have your attention, please?
We are controlling transmission. There is nothing wrong.
The Horror Chronicles.
Whether it's a ghost, spirit, or entity, they all feed on it. That's the whispering, the footsteps, the feeling of another presence.
You won't have a chance to change your minds later, because there'll be no way to get out.
We have such sights to show you.
Have you checked the children?
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Boogeyman's real.
That is better.
They're coming to get you.
They're here.
What's up, horror fam? You know what time it is. Let's get into this. All right. What's up, everybody? We are back at it again, the Horror Chronicles podcast, your favorite fucking podcast.
You know who we are and how we do it.
Tonight, we got some very special guests with us, guys, as we've been having.
Yeah.
We went to our conference, what was that, like a month ago almost?
Yeah, something like that.
Holy cow, yeah, at the Haunted America conference.
Yeah.
And we met a lot of cool people, and these folks are some of the people that we met. They are Mike and Wendy from the paranormal rock band Sunspot.
Hey.
What's going on, guys? How you guys doing tonight?
Well, all right.
Awesome.
Feeling groovy.
Yes,
Nice,
groovy,
nice.
baby.
We're all into groove.
Yes.
Right. So like Bruce Campbell feeling groovy.
It's funny you said that because I just see
Groovy, baby.
you guys are
in the
music.
house.
You guys are music people too, so
Oh, now Wendy's going, groove is in the house. Here we go.
Imagine a deadite dancing to that song.
yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because I just seen a meme. You guys being in music, I'm sure you heard of the maybe the Nirvana stuff going on now with the guy who was the baby from the cover.
Right. The naked baby feels exploited, and now he's suing.
30 years later.
Right, probably because they sold 25 million albums, and his parents probably got like $120, or maybe the photographer passed them a joint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I
funny.
was thinking he was mad because he's got a little penis.
Hey, he's a baby.
Hey, give the guy a break. It's been 30 years.
Well, that's probably
why.
why. Well, it's funny.
It was
the
a
reason why I
cold
bring-
pool, too.
Right, shrinkage, please.
The reason I bring that up is because someone posted up a meme earlier and it had Bruce Campbell in there with his out like this. It's like,
Oh,
Bruce.
nice.
It's wonderful. So,
Nice.
That's
Perfect.
funny.
Nice.
But anyways, guys, like we said, this is well, actually, they have a lot of stuff going on, which we're going to get into. But for now, why don't you guys kind of introduce yourself a little bit and then let us know your socials and everything like that so they can know where to find you.
Absolutely. You can find us at Instagram.com/sunspotmusic, Twitter.com/sunspotmusic, Facebook.com/sunspotmusic. If you look up Sunspot Music on the Googles, we're gonna be the ones who show up.
I sense a theme there.
Yeah, we'd like to keep it consistent.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we'll get into some of the other things too, like with the haunting tours, Chicago hauntings and things like that.
Sure.
But let's talk a little bit about the paranormal music aspect that you guys we got to hear some of it when we went to the conference. Love it.
Very cool, by the way.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
the violin, kind of gave me the whole Queen of the Damned vibe. You know what I'm saying?
It was funny. We walked in and Ryan's like, "Holy shit, she's got a violin.
I was like, that's
What are
badass.
they doing in here?"
Nice. Thanks.
Well,
We're glad you guys liked it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
I love all
cool,
kinds of
very
music,
cool.
but get Apocalyptica. Look at Apocalyptica.
Oh,
All right.
awesome.
So,
So awesome.
but when I heard you guys, I was like, yeah, this kind of gives me the whole vibe of some, So how'd you guys start getting into that aspect of the music?
Our songs have never been particularly about like the things that normal people write about.
Yeah.
It's not just going to be about like, oh, this man, you broke my heart, things like that. It's not going to be that kind of thing. Or it's it's Thursday night, we're gonna get laid. Like that's not right, because it's that I never get laid on Thursday night. So it
Well, the night is young. Oh, never mind. It's Tuesday.
Right, it's Tuesday. I got a couple days to try to break the curse. No, but the thing is that like we never, we've always written songs from like a different kind of perspective, and have thrown like science fiction in it, horror movies in it, all these kind of different things. And so in 2014, Wendy was like, we should do we've been doing a podcast from our van for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And it was getting to be the same. It was going to be the same thing over and over again. I was like, okay, guys, we're in the van for 5 hours, going to this place. What happened last night? Oh, we got trashed. The crowd was great. We had a good time.
Well,
go ahead.
It's worth pointing out, I think, that was also, it started off as just an audio podcast, and then we decided we'd do the video too, which was kind of fun because then you get to, get a little footage from each city and remember the people that you were hanging out with and the clubs and all that. But,
dude, we're going to be in their video.
Right.
Oh, no.
Right. So you just might. Well, we stopped doing that when we kind of transitioned to the more focusing on paranormal topics, just because there was more.
Right.
The audio was more interesting and less visually interesting, I guess.
Yeah.
The standpoint of us sitting here talking into microphones.
Yeah. Well, you guys could have. There's always cool documentary style stuff you could put together.
Watch me listen to this EVP.
Right. Well, it started to be, though, that we wanted to use it also because it was something we were really interested in, and we'd sit there, we'd talk about it in the van when we were going places. We'd drive somewhere in the middle of the night, and we'd have Coast to Coast AM on.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
Whenever we would play at a club, we would try to find out if it had any ghost stories. And people would tell us the urban legends of their city. Like, we'd meet locals, and they'd be like, oh my God, you guys are into this stuff. And they tell you about all the cool stuff that was happening in their city. And we were kind of into it anyway. So it was a really natural progression into, okay, let's jump in, do a podcast about it, and then try to write a song about it every week. And so, 300 episodes later, we wrote a lot of songs.
Hell yeah, that's badass.
Another thing that kind of brings it in is the fact that, we've been together as a band for many, many years, and we've spent a lot of time together. That's just Mike and I and our other bandmate Ben. And so it turned out like, every week, if something new hadn't happened in one of our lives, like there's nothing to talk about because we've already told each other every story that's interesting. So instead of, talking about our own stories, we kind of pontificate about all the weird stuff we were either hearing on Art Bell or just, the stories we'd heard from people while we were traveling and that kind of thing. So conversations and just, talking about that and wondering and thinking about the stuff the things we don't have answers to, in a world full of answers.
It's those late night dorm conversations. And we started playing together in college, so we'd have those late night dorm conversations. And when some people grew up, those conversations stopped because they stopped living in a dorm. Well, we just transferred that over to a van.
Hell yeah.
Dorm on wheels.
Right.
The river.
Which was probably bigger than the dorm.
Yeah. It was not that far away. These 15 passengers.
Yeah, man.
They're huge.
And so it really became something where we were talking about these topics all the time, how they related to our favorite movies, the stuff that we thought was real, the stuff we thought was bullshit, all that kind of thing. And then some of those conversations were really interesting. We're like, well, we should probably record those and talk about some of those topics and use it for fuel to make new songs and use it for inspiration. And that really lit a fire in us for a long time.
That's awesome. That's that's kind of the same reason that we started the podcast. Me and JT, we've been doing this for about 3 years now, almost.
Yeah.
And we started hanging out, just talking about music. Actually, I delivered to his work, and we would talk about metal. We're metalheads. I listen to everything, but I'm a metalhead at heart.
Sure.
And we started talking about that, and then kind of find out we both love horror movies and all this paranormal and shit. And so we started talking about that. I'm like, dude, I want to start a podcast.
It's like we're soulmates.
Yeah. It's like, no, he meant to say cellmates.
Yeah.
Cellmates.
Well, it was so. Go ahead.
metal and horror go hand in hand.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Think about it. I mean, think about the video for like, think about Dokken and Dream Warriors,
Oh yeah.
or the soundtrack to Return of the Living Dead Part 2.
Yes.
You know,
you wanna party?
My favorite.
right. Like all of those great like 80s metal horror soundtracks.
Yeah.
I mean, Alice Cooper even wrote like what, The Man Behind the Mask?
Yeah.
And
For Friday
and-
the 13th.
right. And Alice Cooper was like one of the reasons that I wanted to play music in the first place. Because when I saw him in the Muppet
Yeah.
Show, I was like, well, can I do that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, you can.
Well, don't
Yes,
forget
For the
about
right amount of money.
right. And it's not just metal because, don't forget about the Ramones and the Pet Cemetery.
Oh, God, I love that song.
I do too.
I blast it constantly.
It's so
Blast
catchy.
Yeah,
Like
okay,
everything.
I have to admit something here, and I'm gonna admit it. Since you guys are on here and you're music people,
Oh Lord.
I like The Cure.
Hey, there's worse
There's no
things.
shame in that game.
Yeah.
in the metal community, it's like death sentence. But no,
Oh,
the reason,
Nah.
one of the main reasons I love that, they're not necessarily all the stuff they do, but The Crow. The Crow is one of my favorite movies of all time. Period. It's definitely
Great
my
film.
top 5 of all time, and of course it's in there, and it's a big part of my stuff. But no, you're right.
Well, hey, one of the first big Cure songs is "Killing an Arab," which is related to this existential novel, "The Stranger," which is horrific in its own kind of. Even if it's not graphic or anything, it's horrific in its own kind of way that life has no meaning. In like a French horror movie kind of way, like Martyrs or something like that.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
and Robert Smith with that hair, he looks scary as fuck anyway. So like he's ready to go.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And he's not talking about The Stranger where you sit on your hand.
Oh shit!
No, that's.
I've been working to perfect that.
Oh, that reminds me. I can
a
finally get my
skill.
hand up.
Oh, God.
Boom, boom.
Do.
I noticed you were only drinking your drink with one hand, Mike.
Yeah, with righty tighty.
Hey.
Wait, lefty loosey, right? They call her Lucy for a reason.
That's right.
Hey, you got to leave a hand free to hold the microphone. Now, I'm not talking about the one you're speaking into.
The microphone. Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
Hey, where's
Okay.
where's
Oh,
where's
this
my
is
Jackie
weird.
Martling? Where's the
These
sound guy
people
or
are
Fred?
already
Where's
like,
Fred?
Oh, we want out of here.
Fair. That's fair. I don't blame him.
No, you're good. You're good. So, yeah, you're right. One movie that we talk about quite frequently on here because we talk about music too. But Devil's Candy is a good one.
Great film. If you're into metal, Devil's Candy is all like 80s thrash metal.
Sick.
I mean, it
Nice.
starts out
Sweet.
with Metallica. I mean,
Nice.
it's got a killer soundtrack.
Yeah, it's a great
Oh.
film too. Though.
Yeah, it is a decent movie, but the soundtrack is just phenomenal. I mean,
Well-
you got all the great Slayer, Anthrax,
Oh,
Metallica,
yeah.
The Big
it
Four.
just
Well, did you ever see that movie Rock and Roll Nightmare from like the 1980s with that John
Yes.
Michael Thor guy?
yes.
I mean, that's the classic. Like the heavy metal guy has to take on the devil and stuff like that, and then he becomes an angel at the. So that's heavy metal and horror. They do go heavy metal and horror do go hand in hand, and I'm
Did
done
you
alliterating.
Did you see when he did the Sally Jesse Raphael show?
Oh, my gosh.
Oh my God! It
I
was
missed that.
hilarious.
That woman had some glasses, didn't she?
Oh
God damn it.
yeah! Oh yeah! They were bigger than her skull. It was yeah.
Gotta love
Well,
it.
speaking of killer soundtracks, let's not forget about Killer Clowns from Outer Space. With the
Yeah.
Dickies doing that awesome
Yeah.
theme song.
Dude,
Oh, yeah.
I love that movie. That's like this.
That's
Yeah.
one of those
So
movies that
grotesque.
you hate to admit that you love that movie.
Not me.
But
I love
it's
it.
just a fun movie.
I think
It's awesome.
the Chodos brothers or whatever the guys that put it together. Well, I mean, that was I think one of our first Halloween shows. We like spent 2 weeks working on that cover, and like we were like we're gonna kick it out because it's got the March of the Gladiators and it's got the whole clown thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're like we worked on the song. And we're like we're gonna kick ass and everybody's gonna love it. And we started playing it and everybody's like, what the hell is this?
They're just looking at us like we're freaks. Like,
Like what is that? Killer Clowns? That's the movie with the
Like-
clowns?
come on, we worked on this. This is awesome.
Yeah.
And the audience is just totally unimpressed. Like, oh,
Right? They're just like that song's stupid. I'm like, all right.
why?
Yeah.
Definitely.
The story of our lives.
It's like, hey, you had to been there. It's one of those. You had to been there to understand. Yeah, but
Yeah.
you know,
Try things.
we went to I think it was 2017. I went to Universal Studios for Halloween Horror Nights. It was sick, but they had a whole big Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Scares, Haunted House, Scare Zone. It was fucking sick.
That's awesome.
Cotton candy cocoons and everything.
Yes, it was.
Popcorn guns.
Yeah, it was pretty sick. They
Well, they were going to make a new version of that movie a couple years, like maybe 3 or 4 years back. They were working on doing a reboot.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, like the Killer Clowns movie. They're working on a reboot.
Is it possible though? Is it
I
possible?
know. Look what
We're not.
They need a
big
cover.
fans of remakes, but
okay.
that movie would be tough.
Now, don't get us wrong. Some of them are great, like Evil Dead remake.
Yeah,
Phenomenal.
Fantastic.
Great remake. But
John Carpenter's The Thing.
yes.
Oh gosh.
Well, right, that's a remake. I mean, but I thought the Fright Night remake was pretty good.
It's pretty good.
It wasn't bad.
I mean, Colin Farrell, he's pretty good. So you
I
can't.
almost like Colin Firth.
Right.
But
No, but they changed that enough.
Different movie.
They changed that movie enough to make it really fun, and like the movie in the city of Las Vegas and stuff like that. And so I thought the Fright Night, like I was expecting. I mean, I love David Tennant, but I was expecting to think like, oh, it's gonna suck. And wow.
Have you seen the Evil Dead remake?
Oh yeah, the 2013 one.
Yes.
Yeah, with Jane Levy.
Dude, it
Great
is.
film.
You haven't seen it, Wendy?
I have not seen it yet. I don't think.
Your favorite moment is when she, like this girl, like
Spoiler alert.
oh, yeah, she won't remember it until she sees it. She forks her own tongue.
Yes.
And it's one of those things where it doesn't matter. You can hear about it, and you're like, I don't know if it's gonna be that gross. And then you watch it, and you're like, yeah, it's
Gory
that
as
gross.
shit. That movie is so good. Gory as hell. They said they used more blood than any other movie.
Oh, and the chick with the arm.
Yeah.
It's
the cellar.
it's fun. It's as you know, we're saying like, oh, she forks her own tongue. It's a lot of fun. It is.
Yeah.
Yes. It's
Well,
good.
I mean,
Don't we all want a forked tongue?
No.
We talk like we've got a forked tongue.
I could pick my nose,
right.
both nostrils. No, I'm good with that.
Oh my god.
yeah, the shock factor, it would be pretty good to be able to.
Yeah.
It's
It's a good film.
It's a great film. I love it.
Well, that guy that tattoos himself like a lizard or whatever, he's got a forked tongue.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
right.
Oh yeah.
I
And
know
they
a girl with a
have-
full tongue. It's not cool. I don't like it.
If you're not expecting it, that's the thing. Like if you know, okay, that's the lizard man. He's got a fork. Like that's one thing. But
Yeah.
if somebody
it's
just
like, I
kind
don't
of yeah, like
Right.
hey.
If it's like somebody dressed up like a nun or something like that, and then she's like, like then that's when it gets you. When it's the lizard man walking up with the tattoos and everything, you're like, if he doesn't have a forked tongue, I'm gonna be
Right.
pissed.
Right. And you better have like a tail too.
Exactly,
Right.
Exactly.
So
now, Wendy, when you watch that movie, you're going to get to see a forked tongue,
Yeah.
and it's not.
Oh,
gonna be
I can't
pleasant,
wait.
dude.
So much winning, it hurts.
now
I'll have my barf bucket ready for it.
Oh, yeah.
it's
Wait.
gory. But now that since we're on that subject, this is something we always ask everybody when they come on, because we do love horror movies. What is your guys' favorite horror movie?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask them about their pants.
No, that's ours.
Oh,
that's our
later.
thing.
That's later. Never mind.
All right. What pants?
Yeah, so
Right.
Yeah.
Didn't we learn one thing from the pandemic?
perfect
Pants aren't
answer.
necessary.
It was the pants optional demic.
Right.
Yeah.
No pants dance.
No, but in all seriousness, what's your guys' favorite horror movie of all time?
Or what was the first one that kind of got you into it and things like that? That's an easier one. How about that?
You know, favorite's hard because that really depends on, when's the last one I've seen? You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I loved, like you talked about The Thing. I mean, I loved that movie for a long time. It warped me when I saw it when I was, like 7 years old.
Gosh.
I mean, John Carpenter stuff. I mean, In the Mouth of Madness always takes me for a trip. Like that's always a classic. I mean, Exorcist. Like it's just there's some reasons that they're classics.
Yeah,
And it's
absolutely.
and it's just because they deliver the goods.
Mhm.
So it really depends on the moment. But Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean the original, the remake has its moments and stuff. Plus it's set in Wendy in my hometown of Milwaukee.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah.
That makes it fun.
The remake screwed me up. It was like, oh my god, they can run.
That's not fair.
They can run and you get bitten, like whoever gets bitten or whatever, like it's not just dying or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so it's for me, I love so many horror movies that it's hard to pick a favorite.
What's one of your first ones that you can remember watching?
I mean, Night of the Living Dead
Night of the Living Dead.
was the first movie that I cried while I was watching.
Yeah.
Oh wow, yeah.
Nice.
Like my parents, my dad and my sister were just laughing. They were just laughing because it's like 1982. We're watching it, and it's by 1968 standards, it is. I mean, the zombies look like they went to Kentucky Fried Chicken or whatever, and that's the body parts they're eating, like extra tasty, crispy, like 11 herbs and spices in this body, and so my sister's older than me, and then my dad, and they're both laughing at the special effects and everything. Meanwhile, I am in absolute terror watching it. Like
Poor little Mike.
Poor little Mike was crying, like just crying. So, Night of the Living Dead affected me in a way that when I was watching, used to watch we had Shock Theater in Milwaukee, and that was like the local horror host, Too Loose No Neck or whatever was his name, and you'd watch those movies from the 50s and stuff, and they weren't. I mean, The Thing from Outer Space was good because it was atmospheric, or The Haunting was good because the atmosphere and stuff like that. But it didn't. Those movies that they showed on the old, Monster Piece Theater and stuff like that didn't have that visceral effect that Night of the Living Dead had on me, where like I dreamt about it.
Oh yeah. What's like your favorite genre of horror? If you had to pick one. Like something that, slasher,
Man,
zombie.
you didn't know we were putting you on the spot, didn't you?
No, I mean, it's hard to say favorite because there's something to appreciate in everything. Like,
of course, yeah.
Slasher, you appreciate the practical effects. Psychological, you can appreciate, how like they twist it into you like slowly over time. And comedy horror, you can appreciate because it's a good time. Army of Darkness and then the Evil Dead.
Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
But but I always have something in my heart for like real super serious horror movies. Like I thought that was one thing that The Conjuring when they came back, and even though they said based on a true story, and you're like, oh my God, it's real, and you're watching this, and they brought back the ultra serious kind of horror movie, and I really enjoyed that, and that was in the vein of The Exorcist, and everybody just looks at each other like it's a matter of life and death, and nobody's winking at you like, hey guys, my buddy just died. I'm so scared.
Yeah, see, we say that quite often on here, that James Wan saved horror. Like the Conjurings and then all the Insidious, all this stuff. Annabelle, like
Dead Silence. I mean,
he brought back what you just said about The Conjuring. We've said that ourselves. It's like one of our favorite movies that has been out in a very, very, very long time.
Yeah.
What about you, Wendy?
I was thinking about it. So The Shining was always like number one freak me out movie, just because there's so much going on there.
Yeah.
So much, paranormal, unexplained, weird. And then also the fact that like the second half of the movie, he's running, screaming, Wendy! Like trying to kill Wendy.
He's looking for you.
Yeah. So I have like nightmares of Jack Nicholson with that crazed look like coming after me.
Oh yeah.
And then I realized, and I already brought up Pet Sematary, but I know that it's kind of now when I see it's kind of cheesy, but I saw it the age I was at when I saw it. It just like disturbed me heavily.
Yes.
I think it's because I have a little brother who was like the age of the kid at the time when it happened. So like just that visual of like the kid running in the street, and then you see the shoe go bouncing, and I just even get goosebumps now. But
I can't watch it. I have two little boys. I got two kids, and it gets me. Yeah, we went to the theater and watched. Didn't we watch? Did you go?
Remake.
Yeah.
No, we watched that here.
Oh, that's right. Well, no, it was It. The remake of It.
Oh, sometimes Dead is better. I just love that. I love the main accents. That's
Dead's
just
better.
I go to see Stephen King just to see which actors are going to like really give it that old New England gusto.
Yeah.
Oh, our favorite King line was in Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah. Honey, get over here. This machine just called me an asshole.
Well, I mean, speaking of soundtracks, Maximum Overdrive. I mean, who made who?
Absolutely.
Right, hard rock, horror.
Dude, that movie is it's funny because that's so cheesy, but damn, it's one of my favorite movies. It's one of my go-tos. Like if I want to watch something, fuck, we should watch Maximum Overdrive. It's good. Well, I mean, I love Emilio Estevez too, so I like all the
Who
shit.
doesn't?
Exactly. Emilio!
Yeah. Right, Emilio, the forgotten Sheen.
Shout out to Emilio.
He was forgotten he didn't even get the name.
Right.
Well, actually, he kept his name, and they used
right.
But
right, Carlos Estevez.
Yeah.
Charlie, or no, that was Martin Sheen's name is Carlos.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah. But I just picture Maximum Overdrive, and you watch it's that Green Goblin. Cinema and stuff like that. And Stephen King directed it. And I can just imagine, and this Stephen King is still like in his party days or whatever. So I can just imagine Stephen King waking up like, we're going to make the best movie ever. And then like he just bumps like a huge rail. And that's like, he's like,
it's like the size of that.
I was just going to say, Stephen King didn't direct that movie. Cocaine did.
Right.
Nice.
Right. Like that's what he called craft services or whatever. He called his dealer craft service.
Yeah, I need some Coke. Not cola.
Right. Not the beverage.
They delivered like Domino's.
That's funny. You're talking about Maximum Overdrive. Look at his background. I'm kind of remind you of got the green going behind you.
Aurora.
Yeah. That's that. Well, all I can think about is the cars are going to fucking kill us.
Well, we've done an episode on that. We actually did an episode on that on another podcast called Strange Frequencies, where they talk about music and horror and they bring it together and stuff. And we did that movie. And so much, it's funny. So much of those movies make no sense at all. Like it's like, okay, well, if everything's going crazy, how come that car's not going crazy? And how the hell is that little cart with the machine gun? How is that going crazy? Like, but
selective crazy.
I'm glad you brought up Pet Sematary, Wendy, because I feel like that movie contains like 4 different kinds of like horrific things. Like it goes from your child dies. That's horrific in its own way.
That's the worst.
And then your child comes back and tries to kill you. So that's also
not quite your child.
Right. Your child is evil. Now, how do you love your kid?
Right.
When
how far does unconditional go?
He's a killer. And and then it's like it's that whole crossing the line. It's the horror of betraying the natural world by trying to bring someone back from the dead. And then there's the whole
spiritual part.
Right. That that also there are cosmic powers that we cannot understand, and they do things that can ruin our lives.
Yeah, cosmic powers and cosmic consequences.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, that can bleed right into other things too. So
yeah, so it's deeper than like. I mean, Stephen King. I know that a lot of times he tries to fit his stuff into like some kind of Christian eschatology. Like he'll put it in where there's that. I mean, you think about The Stand. It's the devil versus God. It's he tries to kind of fit it into some kind of Western theology, whereas someone like Clive Barker makes his own thing up. And that was H.P. Lovecraft too, made his own cosmology up. He's like, God, yeah, God's coming, and he's got tentacles for a mouth.
That's funny.
Yeah, well,
Hell yeah.
Well,
so I'm gonna have to edit this out a little bit, but
Sure.
We just got a message. I've only got 10 minutes left on this video. What we'll do is when we run out of time, because I'm not paying for Zoom.
Sure. Yeah.
When we run out of time, I'll start another meeting and send you another link.
Cool.
Sure.
Is that all right with you guys?
Dude.
And I'll edit them together.
That'll give us a chance to refill our beverages.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, it's crazy because
now you're thinking, Miss Wendy.
Before we've had like 5 hours.
Well, that was in the middle of the pandemic, and they were kind of letting people get away with that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they had the extended.
Yeah, they extended. Well, you had no time limit.
Yeah.
Now you've got a 40-minute time
The
limit.
good old days of the pandemic.
Right. It was.
Hey, if the pandemic did one thing good, it was no.
Right.
no.
Well,
It was
that
this-
and the
it
no
was-
pants.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was the Zoom eviction moratorium.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely.
So, but we'll keep going. And like he said, we'll,
Sure.
It'll cut us off here in a minute, and I'll
That
send
sounds
you
good.
another link, and we'll keep going.
we'll edit it,
Ugh.
All right.
But yeah. So tell me a little bit about the paranormal group.
Yeah, they got you guys.
Rockstar Paranormal.
Well,
Oh.
you got the Chicago Hauntings.
Oh, yeah,
Ghost Walk.
absolutely. We can talk a little bit about like American Ghost Walks is a company that does haunted history tours in different cities across the United States. So we do it in Chicago, we do it in Minneapolis, we do it in Milwaukee, we do it in Madison, we do it in Maui, we do it in Puerto Rico. Wendy was a haunted history tour guide in Waukesha, Wisconsin.
Okay.
Which is not far from where I grew up. So it was
Can you say that again? Waukesha.
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 Waka 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 waka.
Yeah.
Oh, Waka Waka.
Where she lived.
Oh, Waka Waka.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's really about finding the interesting stories of a town, the urban legends. We try to make it as real as the real ghost stories versus making some shit up.
Yeah.
Right.
The idea is like, here's what people have experienced. Here's the history. Here's what was in the newspaper. Here's maybe the legend, and then put it together and tie it to the history of the town. So in a way, you can walk around a town and you can connect to it in a different way than like going for a civics lesson or something.
Yeah.
So you're learning the history of the town. You're learning the real ghost stories, and it's the real uncanny stuff that is usually more interesting than he saw the woman in white cross the thing. And that's just the usual. And so the ghost stories might not be as dramatic as somebody that puts on all the makeup and stuff like that and feeds you a line of shit.
Jumps out from behind a gravestone.
Right. Boo. I mean, the thing is, okay, so horror movies are great, right? Horror movies are great. They're also fiction. And haunted houses are great. Haunted houses are a lot of fun. And you know that if somebody grabs you in the haunted house, he's not going to slit your throat.
Yeah.
Most of the haunted houses I go to.
Yeah, I was gonna say I know a couple
Have you
places.
seen the movie Fear Fest?
There was,
Right.
there was something in the news recently about one.
It was funny. They were talking about jumping out from behind gravestones, and I don't know why this popped into my head.
Oh no.
But I think it was either Porky's 2 or 3 when they're in the graveyard. And the fucking one dude's like, "Woogie boogie boogie boogie."
That's what Wendy used to do in Waukesha.
That's what it's basically being a tour guide for American Ghost Walks. That's my
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
She's about to go waka 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 waka.
And then when she first looked at the script, she's like, oogie boogie boogie?
Wait, can you clarify this pronunciation? I'm not sure. I want to make sure I get it right.
Is that 2 boogies or is that 3?
Yeah, I just see a lot of O's. No, but it's that idea that it's the real uncanny stuff that's more interesting, I find.
Yeah.
And that's when we were in the van and talking. It's the little stuff that happens to us. It's the stuff when we're on the tour and you see something weird, or think about Wendy when we'd have like a shared hallucination in the front seat.
It happens. And
EMT's a hell of a drug.
we were sober. We were completely sober.
Dead sober.
I swear we were completely sober, and Mike and I saw the same weird illusion.
Right. And not like all of a sudden there's a flying cryptid or some shit like that,
Right.
but more like we saw the same kind of optical illusion together.
Weird lights on the side of the road.
Yeah. And so you're like, okay, now that's like two people see the same kind of thing when we've never seen that before individually in our lives.
And we were like,
Right. Like rubbing around, closing them, open again, closing them, open again.
yeah.
And so it's that kind of thing that it's like, okay, so there is something that we can't explain.
What's going on?
Yeah, and that's what we want to get at, because it's the stuff that you can't really explain that gives life a little spice. If you can explain it it was in the script. If you can explain it with, it was fake. If you can explain it with, it was a hoax, then that can still be a lot of fun, but it's kind of not the purpose of the kind of stuff we're going for. And it definitely wasn't the purpose of our podcast either. we were having long discussions and interviewing people and talking to people to try to get as close to some kind of truth as possible. And if it looked like someone was blowing smoke up our ass or whatever, then we just
Yeah.
You get out.
So I think we got about 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
What's you want to go ahead and send a
let's pause this, and then what I'll do is I'll start another meeting.
Sure.
It'll just take me a few minutes, and I'll send it back to the Facebook page.
Cool.
Sounds good.
That sounds great.
All right.
We'll put a button in it.
There you go.
See you on the other side.
Yeah.
Sure, sounds great.
All right, and we're back.
And we're back in the
So,
subtle game.
I'm going to add a little something here.
Geez.
You guys were talking about, and it just kind of reminded me of something. You were talking about the ghost walks and the tours, and and the things that you've seen or whatever. So, I've been a big fan of Troy Taylor's for a long time. And one year, like the year after I got married, my wife and I got married in 2005. And she said, hey, why don't we go over to Alton? They're doing these haunted tours. And I'm like, okay. My wife's totally not into this kind of stuff, and I was kind of shocked that she mentioned it. But my birthday was, coming up, and she was like, oh, why don't we go over and do that? And I'm like, okay, yeah, sounds good. So we went over there, and it just so happened that Luke, did you guys meet Luke Naliborski?
Yeah.
Okay, so Luke was doing the tour that night.
He's great.
I got a really cool picture of me and Luke in the old bookstore. But anyway, we're going through the tour. Well, that tour would end at the First Unitarian Church in Alton, which now they don't have access to, but back then they did. And so at one point, they get us all in this church, and they're telling the story about the church, and they take us all down to the basement. Well, here I am. I've got this little miniature voice recorder thing. And I'm like, as soon as we walk in the church, I turn this thing on, and it's in my pocket, or in my hand or wherever, And they take us down into the basement, and and it's a crowd of I don't know, there was probably 20 or 30 of us, and we're standing in the basement, and Luke's like, okay, I want you guys to see how dark it is down here. I'm gonna switch the lights out. Okay, cool. So here I'm standing kind of towards the back, and it was like a semicircle in front of me. And he flips the light out, and it is pitch black. You can't see your hand in front of your face.
Oh, man.
All of a sudden, the little tiny red light on my voice recorder is lit up, and this lady standing behind me goes into a blood-curdling just panic attack. And is freaking out, freaking everybody else out. And my wife, who's always calm, cool, and collective, she's like,
Right.
No, it's just my husband with a stupid recorder.
That's awesome.
That is great.
Good job. Way to freak out
I literally scared the shit out of the entire tour group, and didn't even mean to.
Yeah.
If I'd have known
Very
I was going to
good.
have that kind of reaction, I'd have done an oogie boogie boogie thing or something.
Yeah.
There you go.
Or a waka waka.
Yeah.
No. Alton's a lot of fun. We, the first time we went there, actually, we did an interview with Luke for our podcast at Mavis Coffee House, which is an old school and has a whole bunch of haunted stories. And then we did a show.
Nice.
In that place. And then the next year was the first year we went to Haunted America.
How many times have you guys gone to the Haunted America conference?
So 2019 was the first time you went?
No, 2016, 17, 18, 19.
Oh, okay.
And then we skipped last year,
Wait,
obviously.
that many?
Right.
Yeah, we came 2016 was the first we went to.
Really?
Yeah, we old.
Jeez, I don't even remember that.
Yeah.
It was that long ago.
We also partied a lot at that one, so
That's why you don't remember it.
See?
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, too much karaoke at the what is it? The rivers
the Rivers
Lounge or whatever.
Something.
Yeah.
But Alton's a very cool place, and funny enough, one time, so my sister Allison, who had started the Milwaukee Ghost Tour back in 2008, she had been going to Haunted America since it started, and so So she knew Troy. And then one time we took a family vacation in 2000, we went to New Orleans. And we're standing at Jean Lafitte's bar, the oldest bar in New Orleans or whatever.
Yeah.
And so we're standing in line waiting to order something. And who we were standing right behind was Troy Taylor.
Nice.
And
What are the odds?
she's like, Troy? He's like, Allison? I'm like, holy shit. Like, that's,
yeah.
I guess weirdos are attracted to New Orleans.
Well,
right?
yeah.
The same kind of thing, like the moths to the paranormal flame.
Yes.
The wraiths to the paranormal
True,
flame.
yeah.
But I was just so I met Troy 21 years ago or whatever, because we were just standing behind him in line waiting to get a beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy how the weirdos attract each other.
It's funny. The very first time I ever met Troy Taylor, he was at Six Flags in Eureka, Missouri, and it was during their Fright Fest, and he was in this. If you guys have never been there, they've got this little place called Miss Kitty's Saloon where they do like song and dance things, and it's set up like a old Western saloon or whatever. Well, they had Troy in there, and he was telling stories, and basically his deal was like I think it was like every hour a new group of people would come in, and he would have to tell the exact same stories. So it was funny. I talked to him a little bit that day, but then I ran in. Well, I didn't run into him. He was doing an event at the library in St. Louis, and I was like, oh my God, I got to go, So I went over there and was talking to him, and I was like, hey man, I know you don't remember me, but the first time I met you was and he was like, don't say Six Flags.
Oh my gosh.
I was like,
there you go.
Well, it was Six Flags. and hell, that was the year that was in God. That was probably 2003 or something.
20 years ago, and 3 restraining orders later.
Yeah.
Nice.
Right.
So,
right. Now I can't come up to Troy anymore because I'm not supposed to be within 200 yards of him or his family.
Well, it's funny because I know that Troy absolutely hates like when people walk up to him at conventions and want to show him pictures of orbs and stuff. He's always
we all hate that.
So I walked up to him at Haunted America conference that weekend. I had my cell phone in my hand, and I'm like, hey, Troy, look at this. And he just looked at me like he was going to frickin' slit my throat. And it was a picture of me and him from like 20 years ago. And I'm like, hey, you remember being this young? And he was like, oh, my God.
And then he starts scrolling through and showing him pictures of his house. And
and then I was showing him, here's a dick pic I sent my wife. And, no.
There's a pizza I ate yesterday.
I didn't know you had a zoom lens on your phone.
I do. A really big one.
Yeah.
I think about that first year of Haunted America, though. Wendy, I think that's the first time that we heard Scotty Roberts do his whole thing about his Egypt experience, like where he talked about the seeing the ghosts and stuff in Egypt, and that one blew my mind. But really, what blew my mind is we're hanging out after hours, and Scott Lambert from Michigan Paranormal was there. And he's metalhead, so we're talking about music and stuff. Yeah. And then he just busts into this conversation with Greg Newkirk from the Traveling Museum of the Paranormal Occult, Greg and Dana. And just, it was late. I think Dana was already asleep. Wendy was back in the bar, and it was just like me and Scott and outside. And he goes, the Titanic was an inside job. And just goes into this whole spiel.
I know the whole thing.
Like if you think 9/11 trutherism is crazy, I'd like to introduce you to the Titanic truthers.
Inside job.
I'm a huge conspiracy theorist, so I definitely know the whole Titanic thing.
I went to the Titanic Museum and I died. So
right.
Now, I'm not saying I believe all conspiracies. I'm just deep into the learning about different things.
It really is interesting.
It's interesting.
And Wendy and I went into that pretty deeply with my sister actually on our podcast, and not about the Titanic trutherism, but about Amelia Earhart.
Ah, yes. Uh-huh.
And the idea of why Amelia Earhart would have, why, we wouldn't have rescued her even if we'd have gotten the transmissions and stuff like that, because we would have alerted the Japanese that we would have known their codes.
Yeah.
Before Pearl Harbor,
right.
Which means that people would have known that we would have known that
Could
we
have
knew-
done something or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
We knew they were coming before Pearl Harbor, but
Right.
FDR wanted a reason to get in the war. He
Yeah.
just had no idea that they'd sink a battleship.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so there's, speaking of conspiracy theories, my fourth grade teacher told us that story. I remember she's like, who wants to stay in at recess and hear about how FDR knew about Pearl Harbor?
What?
Yeah.
You?
And Mike was like, I'll stay.
Right. I'm like, I didn't even like that teacher. And I was like, I want to hear about how FDR knew about Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she goes into a whole thing her husband, like John Birch Society member or whatever, like, like the full deal. And
Did anyone else stay for that? Did
like
any
half
class-
the class stood for it.
What?
Yeah, they were like, what?
See, yeah. I mean,
right, you're-
it's interesting. You know what I mean? It's
It is.
there's a lot of interesting things in the world. And that's what's cool about doing this podcast as well, because just like conspiracy theorists or conspiracy theories, you know, a lot of the things that we are into with the paranormal and everything else is a lot of theories and things, you know. And what's cool about it is, and we always talk about this on here, but you know, what's cool about it is that there's more out there than what we know. I said this on our last podcast. We actually had Tobias on. He came on and
Who?
Tobias Whalen.
Tobias Whalen.
Oh, sure.
From the
we know him.
4TN Society.
Yeah, he was on our
He used
last
to live.
episode.
He used to live in Madison, so we know.
He's awesome, man. He was on our last episode, and we talked about it. You know, I would hate to go through life thinking there's nothing else there. That
Right.
you just live this life, and whatever either shit hand you get or good hand you get, that's it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and it's like, you know, as a person of science myself, I love, like, it's great that we have formulas we can put things through and we can predict, you know, okay, we can predict
Yeah.
flight paths and like there's amazing things we can do. But there's like also there are things that we can't predict. And there are things that we don't know why they happen. And I think like what a boring world it would be if everything was like calculatable or predictable. Like
Yeah.
And Wendy's a mechanical engineer, so she knows formulas and
Oh,
shit.
nice.
I know formulas.
Yeah, formulas and shit. That should be a shirt. Formulas and
Formulas and
shit.
shit.
It's true. I mean, she goes through in her drawings and stuff like that. I look
spent
at it, I'm
5
like,
years
Next
getting that
year, I'm
piece of
taking her a
paper.
shirt. that
is
says
that a
formula and
hieroglyphic to
shit.
me? A hieroglyphic to me. But you know,
But
I think
it's
that
true.
it is, but to speak from the different perspective, now I'm not an atheist. I've never really been an atheist. But I think their idea is that don't look elsewhere for help because it's not coming.
Yeah.
And so I think that you think a guy like Richard Dawkins, I mean, how do you know when you meet an atheist, a vegan, or a CrossFitter?
They tell you about it.
Right. You know, you like, don't
Stop telling you about it.
don't worry, you'll
They
know.
won't stop talking about it.
Right.
Right,
Exactly.
of course. No, I'm
I did CrossFit for a little while.
yeah, it's fun.
And I
You
talked
did your
about it
time.
forever.
Right. I was a runner. I mean, I was a marathon runner too,
Right.
and that's all I talked about. It's like, oh God, how many people
That's
did I bore to death?
Well, that's
Now I'm a
because you spend
podcaster, and
half
that's
of your
all we
life
talk
running.
about.
When you're
That's why I talk about masturbation all the time.
yeah, because you're a stroker.
Master debater.
I'm a stroker.
Right, like another great Wisconsin alumni. Oh shit, I can't think of it.
I want to know where you're going with this.
No,
Please.
the midnight stroker. I'm a joker. I'm a smoker. I'm a midnight
Steve
stroker.
Miller.
Like another great Wisconsin alumni, Steve Miller. He's from Texas, but he went to school at the University of Wisconsin.
I was like, is there some
Nice.
Olympic sport I don't know about? What are you talking about?
Oh, yeah.
It should be.
It should be.
It
Once
should
they-
be.
Once they let the skateboarders and the snowboarders in, you knew jerking off was coming next.
Go for go. Go for go.
Right. I think we have a
What was it
contender
that,
right here.
George Carlin said when roller fucking becomes an Olympic sport and fine, or becomes an Olympic event, then fine, baseball can be a sport or something.
Oh man,
I love Carlin.
that's great.
You know, but that idea, though, there is something to that, because I think that in the paranormal, it's the exploration. When you think about guys like William James and the original people who were doing the psychical research in the late 1900s, like, it was science. It was taking Wendy's equations and formulas and stuff and trying to apply them to the field of the supernatural. And I mean, that's what an EMF meter is, right? That's what the EVPs are. That's everything. Right. And I think we're discovering that we've been on a ghost hunt and you get, some EVPs or whatever, you're like, that's great. But nobody's going to mistake that farting sound that you got for an EVP for their grandfather. I mean, that's a reach. That is a reach. Like, Grandpa used to fart just like that.
I can even smell it.
I even remember what they smelled like. Well, yeah, I mean, you just got to be real. I mean, you just got to bring it a healthy skepticism. No, Wendy, what you wanted to come in there? Yeah.
Well, no, it's true. It's true because I feel like the wondering about and the having these late night discussions about the things that we don't have answers to is what helps us progress as human beings. I mean, there was a time when like we didn't have microscopes and we couldn't see bacteria, and we just thought like, the devil made me die because and it's like the questioning and the wondering and the thinking like, what is this force? There's a force that's making us sick that we don't understand. And like,
well, isn't that what happened with the witch trials? Part of that was that the food they were eating was getting molded and spoiled, and they thought it was witchcraft or something, but it was really just that year, a certain kind of humidity or pollen or something was up. And
no, I'm just like, it's when I think about the witch trials, I just get like, because it's just so like tragic,
Yeah, and that's what it's like. You said the devil did it, but really it was just the fact that year it was super humid or whatever, and the bread and everything that they were making was getting fermented and stuff. So everyone was seeing things and this and that, and they were trying to blame it on the devil.
They didn't understand. They just didn't understand what was going on.
I mean,
have you guys ever been to Salem?
I have not.
I have not.
My wife took me for our anniversry one year.
Oh, cool.
Again, my wife, who is not into this stuff. She does.
I was going to say, what's she doing? What's she doing this weekend?
Not him.
Yeah, probably not.
Oh, what a ball buster over there.
Yeah, well, I'll clean up the blood here in a minute. But anyway, it's funny. So we spent a week there, and of course I'm like, let's go. I can't believe I'm here. I got to see everything. That's and amazing. Like 2 days into it, I had seen everything and I had heard the exact same story 27 times. And I was like, But
I don't like people talking about Salem as a center of witchcraft. And this is what kind of annoys me about them leaning into it, is that the whole point was that they weren't fucking witches.
Right.
Yeah,
right. Exactly.
But he was just saying the point, like the being there.
Yeah.
You were saying.
And that's what I'm saying is, once you're there and you really, because I knew that going into it, I'd done some research on it. The shit that they did in Europe was ungodly worse than what happened in Salem. But we don't talk about that.
Right.
All we want to talk about is what happened in Salem when they killed 21 people.
Well, we did a song about that this summer, last summer, Witchfinder General. You can find that on our YouTube, Sunspot Witchfinder General.
Check it out.
There you go.
And that, that idea. But, I used to think that the people that lived through Salem witch trials were fucking barbarians.
Yeah,
I used to be like, those people are barbarians. They're stupid, all those kind of things. And then I log onto Twitter. And you realize that, 400 years later, or not like 300, whatever, 1692 to 2022. So, 330 years later, people have not changed that much.
Oh, no. They changed. They're worse now.
Right.
I know. Isn't it crazy?
You find something you want to hate. You find another tribe that everyone in that other tribe is bad. And that you cannot agree with anything in that other tribe.
And then you take them down.
Right.
Yeah. See, we just talked about this because, I have my own beliefs. JT has his own separate beliefs on certain things.
Neither one of us are right.
But guess what? But guess what? We're still best friends.
Yeah.
That's cool.
We can still be friends. I have my own private stuff, and I don't put it out here. When I talk to people, I don't push anything on nobody. And I'm not going to hate you just because you believe something. Now, the only thing that'll make me hate you is if you're diddling kids or
Oh, Jesus Christ, like that.
Hey,
That's fair.
Wow,
Yeah,
we
I-
went down a dark
I think
path.
we're like, I think
Hey.
let's all agree on that real quick.
hey, you would be surprised. I'm telling
Oh,
you.
God.
That's my thing. There's people out here, and that's the only thing that would make me not be able to talk to you.
Yeah.
I don't care whatever your religious beliefs, whatever your political beliefs, whatever. Do your own thing. If we can have a cool conversation, awesome. Let's do that. You know, there's no reason. It's crazy because a lot of the people that I've met have a lot of different beliefs on me than politically and things like that, but we're still friends.
Yeah.
And we
That's
still
cool.
talk, you know, because we're in the same thing here. It's something
that also, I mean, that's also the idea. I think of the big picture discussions. What's fun about the paranormal, the big picture discussions, and I think that's what it attracted Wendy and I to want to work on songs about it, to want to participate in these things, to want to really enjoy. Like when we just spent 4 days at the Michigan Paranormal Convention and drove 7 hours to get there.
Yeah,
and we did get that. I mean, we played all night at the casino both nights and had a great time. We did the rock, party, but also
It was like all of the best things in one place, like rock and roll, paranormal,
gambling, drinking. Like we just had a great time. Plus, cannabis is legal, so anybody can party anywhere.
Oh yeah,
right. It's all there in the UP, baby. But the thing
Wisconsin's
is,
hat.
right? All right. It's a pretty hat.
Cute.
But it's like you're there and you're talking to people. It's not just small talk. I mean, you do a bunch of small talk, but you jump into big questions.
It's much easier to jump into those questions
right away.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some cult of celebrity around the whole thing, and you see some people. It's like I like them because they're on TV or something. But then a lot of times you get down to it, and you're talking to people about things that really matter, things that we can't understand, things that we're trying to understand. And it's that way of you're having a conversation with someone, and humans are social. And one of the powerful things about humans being social is that we use interactions with other people and how they react to us and everything to get closer to maybe truth, the way we should act, and all of those. And so the beauty about that social aspect of being human, whether it's music, whether it's conversation, whether it's everything, is that you can get closer to some kind of universal truth together by working in a way to whittle away at the bullshit to get to the core of it. Then you can't alone. And I think that's when you refuse to talk to someone because they didn't vote for the same person that I did, or because they come from a different tribe, or because they're white trash or some shit like that.
Yeah.
You lose that aspect of using other humans to make yourself better. And that's the Salem witch trials.
Oh yeah. And
you talk about that thing. It was really funny whenever we went to the Haunted America conference. We're walking through there, and it's like, man, we are just as fucking weird as everybody else in here.
That's our first conference that we've ever gone
I
to.
love it. That's awesome.
And it's cool that we have that community where we can, I can just walk up to you and start talking about the weirdest shit, and we're going to carry on a conversation about it.
Yes.
If I tried that at the fucking Huddle House down the street, they're going to kick me out of there.
Well, I don't know about Huddle House. Huddle House probably let you stay.
But if
they'll let you stay until you pay off your old tab.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I have to know, is that a bar or is that like a gym?
No, it's like Waffle House.
It's
like Waffle House.
I want to go there.
We always joke when we drive through, the South and see all the Waffle Houses.
Yeah.
How the is not always all the letters are never there.
Yeah.
So it's like it's
awful.
like
It's Awful House.
If it's 3 o'clock in the morning, we need to eat after a show. We'll be like, hey, you guys want to go to the Apple Hose?
Yeah, the Apple Hose. That's the name.
But that's all the lights we can see.
But they're so good.
Yeah.
But I mean,
They're great in the middle of the
I
night.
love that place.
I can't
It's
tell you
fun.
how many times I've been somewhere, anywhere, somebody will come in and they'll be like, oh, hey, how's the weather? Let's talk about the president and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Whatever. But the minute they mention something spiritual or a ghost or whatever, it's a fucking 3-hour conversation. I mean, it amazes me. And that was one of the things that was really cool about being at that conference was the people that we talked to, guys like you. I mean, it was just we all had the same agenda, I guess.
Yeah. Openness, I think, is really like the key.
Sure, we were hoping to sell CD. We were hoping to sell CDs, and everybody else there was looking to sell books. Like I know the
exactly.
We weren't selling shit. As a matter of fact,
that is a thing. I mean, it's trying to winnow down to the truth. That makes a lot of fun, and sometimes it's emotional truth, like it's a song. So, when Wendy and I were working on the music from the podcasts and stuff like that, and now we're working on a new album. That's our next project. It's trying to find an emotional truth that will connect with people. And some people can do that through like a party song, like Bruno Mars or something. Some people can do that through like death metal. People listen to that, they're like, and it's like, okay, this guy speaks to me. It's like, I don't know what he's saying, but he speaks to me. And they find that emotional truth in the pain of the music or in the dissonance of the chords, in all those kind of things. And so we try to find that emotional truth through sometimes, paranormal topics.
Yeah.
It's we have a song called Mystery about how, you're never going to know it all, but if you act like you do, then you're not going to know anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Never be afraid to learn. I learn every time I talk to someone. Every time I talk to, that's one thing why we bring people on the podcast.
Except when he talks to me.
Yeah, I don't learn shit from this guy. But no, like when you bring people on the podcast, it's kind of selfish, really, because we say selfish. We like to promote everybody. We co-promote anybody and stuff, but really we like to learn. And we like to talk to people who have an open,
like to hear people's stories,
who have an open mindset. It's kind of hard to talk to someone when they can't get past like what's trending on Twitter or any of this shit like that. And what's hard for me is that I have very strong beliefs, but I keep them on my private stuff. And I don't push them on people. I believe my own way.
Hear about that shit all the time.
You live your own way. Yeah, right. But you do your thing. I do my thing. But what I really like to do is talk about how like everyone's connected. Humans are all connected. It's because when you feel something, if someone sees a little dog that got hit on the road or something, it upsets you or it bothers you. If your brain's working right.
Unless you're a fucking sociopath.
Exactly. Exactly.
But that's the rare exception.
Yeah,
isn't it 1 out of 25? Like somebody wrote a book called The Sociopath next to it. So 1 out of 25.
Yeah. Well, that's what they say. They said get a room of 100 people. There's going to be at least 20 assholes in the room.
No.
Right, and 4 sociopaths. Well, the good news for you guys is I'm your one.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Mike.
I'm the asshole.
Nice.
So the next 22 people we meet are going to be.
You're going to be good.
But no, something I was thinking about when you guys are talking about on the paranormal aspect, and I've been thinking about this for a while now, because we had Phantom Science on here. They were at the conference as well. We had them on, and we were talking to them, and they make equipment, to do paranormal investigations and things like that. So I was thinking, a lot of the things like EVPs and all this are all based off of energy waves. And, your brain is constantly putting out huge amounts of electronic energy. I mean, your brain is basically a giant supercomputer, really. I mean, it's small, but there's a lot in there.
More powerful than any computer we know of here.
I was going to say I've met a few supercomputers, and I've met a few Commodore 64s.
Oh, yeah. So, but it makes me.
You just called this Commodore 64.
Yeah, I'm definitely a 64.
You guys are definitely.
Wait till we hit the not record button.
You guys are definitely 486s.
Probably, good possibility.
Maybe.
But no, that I think that's why the human beings. I think we're all connected on a level anyway, no matter what. And so I'm a dimensional person, so I believe there's different dimension, uppers and lowers, and there's higher frequency beings and lower frequency beings, and how you are you're going to level up or you're going to level down when you pass away, you know? But I think that's why we can connect. And we always talk about how most paranormal things are personal. You know, they're personal. Sorry, guys, we got another warning thing. But most things are personal experiences.
Sure.
So, you know, I think that humans alone are just putting off enough energy to be able to grab that and feel it and hear it and see it when other things can't, because there's so much just coming out of your brain.
Sure, that makes perfect sense. I was thinking too, like, you know, before when you were talking about the making the connection and how important it feels, you know, when you're able to talk to somebody and like to actually connect and be able to discuss these things like at the conventions.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but like I feel like the older I get, the more important it is, and yet the harder it is to do.
Yeah.
It's harder
100%.
it's difficult to meet people, and it's even more difficult to like find people that you can immediately dive into a conversation that's like,
So, what do you
the whole
think?
meaning of this all is? You know, like,
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, I'm with you there and especially the energy thing. I totally agree that it's like we're all kind of sending out signals and we're all receiving all the signals. And
well, I feel like science has proven an actual, not like fucking, Dr. Bunsen Honeydew or whatever. I feel like science has proven at least some kind of non-local communication.
Yes, yeah.
With the Gansfeld, especially in Europe, with to be able to send them. I mean, statistically, the kind of stuff you see on the news, the same statistics you see on the news when they say too much fat for your heart valves or whatever kind of thing has been used to show that people can communicate with each other if they are in a sensory deprivation environment over chance.
Yeah.
And so when you say we're sending energy, okay, we don't know what that energy is. We don't know, if it's electrical, if it's whatever it is, but we can pick up on what somebody else is sending as long as we can make the rest of the world go away. So if you make the rest of the world go away, there is still something that receives and still something that sends to each other. Yeah. We're not just social in the way that it wasn't an evolutionary advantage so that we could take on the saber-toothed tiger. We are social in a way that we can communicate. I mean, you have the nonverbal stuff. How many times you looked at somebody, then you know exactly what they're thinking. And it's just a look. It's not even a wink, not even a thing. It's just, you get it.
Or even a feeling, like an instinct.
Vibes. Right. I mean, you get that. You get that off people, yeah.
Totally.
Well, and this sounds crude or whatever, but I think the most basic example that I can think of that I think is paranormal in a way is that when women live together.
Yes.
It sounds silly, right?
Talking about the matching up?
Yeah, the matching. Like, how else? How else is that possible? Unless it's some kind of our bodies are meant to sync.
She's looking at us like, what the fuck are you talking
No, our
about?
bodies are meant to sync to each other. Like, to me,
I literally just heard this on another podcast.
But it's actually
scientifically. Yeah, go ahead.
They figured it out?
If I may. No,
please.
It's more of the moon, the phases of the moon cycle. Because like 80% of, women or I don't know what the percentage is. I just made that up, 80%, but it's a majority of women cycle at the same time, and it's during the various phases of the moon. And there's theories about whether that was because there's more light during the full moon, so that's when people are boom chicka wow wow, or that type of thing, like when fertility is higher.
By yourself,
right? But
but no,
I'm glad I brought this up, Went, because now I feel like my thing's debunked. Because that to me always felt like people living together start just. It's more than just mental. It's more than just. It's a thing that our bodies react to each other.
Well, you're
naturally.
Right. Actually, there's a doctor. I was listening to this podcast, and there's a doctor on there. She was talking about that. She said that when women live together like that, the reason why it ends up happening like that is something in the body. You're always competing for when it comes to breeding and things like that. So the quicker they are at the same time, the easier it is for them to compete. It's so weird the way they were explaining it. It made sense.
Sure.
It's like Animal Kingdom shit.
Yes,
there.
it's the same thing. It's the same thing. We're animals. That's all we are.
We're mating.
still animals, you know?
It's just
Yeah.
okay. Well, I guess my idea of it being something psychic is totally fucking bullshit.
Well, I know,
So-
but I mean, it could be also a tribal thing where it's, you know, like everybody's like trying to be fertile at the same time because they're, you know.
Sure.
I'm telling you right now.
When the
I'm
men
going to
come
house,
back from
I'm
the
gonna
hunt.
roar at my wife.
I know that. I get really pissed off. My wife's pissed off. So that must
I mean that's part of being human. I mean, but the real thing is, if we're talking about non-local communication,
yeah.
and that we have something completely inexplicable, it is this idea that you can think something and someone else can receive it,
Right.
and it doesn't seem to matter where they are.
And isn't
in
that
the
kinda-
world, it has nothing to do with distance. It's got nothing with, and if it has nothing to do with distance, that means that it can't be physical. Because anything would be like, well, the closer you are, the better it's going to work, right?
Mm.
Well, the closer they show that the closer you are, that doesn't matter. They can be
Yeah, because I've been trying to get him to shut the fuck up forever in my head, and he just ain't catching it.
He was just trying to say something. Gerald, what you were going
Well,
to say?
no, I was just going to say, isn't that kind of the basis of the Estes Project?
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you guys heard about that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we did that. We did the Estes method for when we shot a video for another thing you can find on our YouTube. I don't want to be a ghost.
Nice.
Shot at the Maxwell Mansion in Lake Geneva, a very haunted place that's also featured on the American Ghost Walks Lake Geneva tour. And we spent 16 hours there shooting a video and did an investigation and had some people telling ghost stories and things.
What was that mirror thing we did, Mike? What
The
was that called?
psychomantium.
Yeah, Mike and I tried to do the psychomantium.
5 o'clock in the morning
Yeah.
after working working on the video and doing it all day. It's just Wendy and I at the end of the night, 5 o'clock in the morning,
In the
And
pitch dark, just
staring at a
into
mirror,
a mirror.
and nothing appeared.
I recommend it. I recommend everyone try that at some point in your life.
I've done that a time or two.
It causes it affects the time, your perception of time.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's weird.
Wow.
But the psychomantium is something interesting because it was really developed as a way to deal with grief.
Yeah.
And people, it was developed as a psychological as a psychological treatment for people that experienced a recent death of a loved one. And then people started saying that the person appeared.
Yeah.
And they would see the person appear and then they would feel better.
Yeah.
And so it turned into like a psych treatment. And I think, they developed it. I mean, Raymond Moody, the guy that gave us the whole idea about the near-death experience in his book, Life After Life, it was he was a doctor. He's not just some jackass or whatever. And there's a lot of people in the paranormal that also put doctor before their names and they are just jackasses. But he developed, this kind of thing to help people through, losing someone very important to you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the psychomantium, but is now being used for trying to contact spirits and not just trying to make yourself feel better after you lose somebody really
Right.
important.
And in our case, instead of therapy, it caused more trauma.
Yeah.
Right. Because we just want to go to bed.
Man.
But so that thing is where it's in the dark. You have you try to make it pitch black, and then you have a small, like you have a little light there, so you can see something from the mirror, but you can't really see anything behind you. And the idea is you stare at the mirror for a long time, and people start seeing things.
I just hit the record.
So we were just
Yeah,
talking about
that's
the psychomantium, and people usually put candles in front of the psychomantium to create that kind of light. And then I look in to check on my daughter, my 4-year-old daughter, and she's sleeping peacefully, and she's got 3 little electric votive candles next to her.
And a
And it
mirror.
just-
Next to her mirror.
And a mirror she's staring into.
Right. And I'm like, okay, we're doing the psychomantium at 4.
Nice.
No, it just was
Truly
the cute,
her
the-
father's daughter.
right. It's the cutest thing in the world. Well, I did drag her underground into the catacombs when we went to New York.
Oh, that's awesome.
Last time.
Nice.
And we went not the Paris catacombs. That's more of an ossuary because it's a collection of bones. And I mean, I've been there too. It's amazing. But that actually is a catacombs underneath the church, and it's like the first Irish church in New York.
Gotcha.
Martin Scorsese. It eventually became Little Italy. Martin Scorsese grew up across the street. There's a scene from Mean Streets that they shot in the church, and they have a whole bunch of cool ghost stories and everything like that. So we went on a tour of it and got to go down to the catacombs. We went there last month, right after Haunted America. And I didn't know how she'd be able to handle it because it's dark and shit like that, and there's weird Catholic imagery. And I grew up Catholic, so I know they got a guy hanging with bloody hands from the wall. It's going to freak you out a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And she took it like a champ.
That's awesome.
So, that's great.
Yeah,
so
I got a 4-year-old son. I got a 4-year-old and 8-year-old. But both my boys are like me too. They love horror movies. Like my oldest for his 4th birthday wanted Annabelle Creation when it first came out. That's what he got for his 4th birthday, the DVD.
Wow.
But they're both like that.
I was definitely 4 years old. I mean, I cried over fucking Night of the Living Dead. Annabelle Creation, they would have had to send me to a different school. They would have to send me away, like boarding school or some shit.
I wish I could send you the video. I got a video of my son, my oldest, when he was probably 6, and he's crying at me because I won't let him watch Halloween. I showed him. He's like, I want to watch Michael Myers, and I'm like,
it was pitiful.
Awesome.
I remember. I remember.
I'm like, you're
And you probably relate to him.
In college. So I was a film major in college, and we had a whole, like, we're talking about the slashers.
Mm-hmm.
And so we watched Halloween. We get to watch it on the big screen as part of a screening, and you could bring friends and stuff. So I remember I took a girl as a date to see Halloween. And this was like, one of the first couple of dates we went on. And she's like, well, this is an interesting choice. And I'm like, all right. She still made out with me at the end of that date.
Nice.
Well,
Nice.
100%.
Well, yeah. Well, that's because she saw people.
No, that wasn't a slam dunk, guys. It was taking a chick to Halloween and talking about film stuff. Like, it's not like I was sitting there talking about being the captain of the varsity team.
Well, technically, though, science lady Wendy here, tell us this is true. The same endorphins when women get scared are the same ones when they, it's the same mental thing in the brain that's why they get excited.
I cannot confirm nor deny this.
Yeah, I don't know. She's not
that's what I thought. That's enough for me. I'm good.
Not an endocrinologist.
I didn't study a medical practice.
I can see it now. That girl was probably like, come on, Mike, show me your big camera.
Yeah. Show me that zoom lens.
Show me your microphone.
It's more like show me your spy camera.
Oh, creeper.
Okay, so I got something weird here because we haven't really talked about it.
We've been plenty fucking weird, dude. So what did we miss?
Well, this isn't weird. It's just kind of strange that we haven't talked about this yet. What got you guys into paranormal? Or did we talk about?
We talked about movies. We talked about movies.
Movies.
Paranormal.
Yeah, we talked about movies. But what got you interested in the paranormal, the chasing ghosts and spirits and
the origin story? Huh?
We'll let Wendy go first.
Origin story.
Yes,
there
please
you go.
do.
We'll let Wendy go first.
Well, I mean, so Mike and I actually met our freshman year in college because we met through our other bandmate Ben, who I had met in high school. We were in the youth symphony orchestra together.
Right on.
So the first week of school, run into each other, and then he's like, "Hey, you gotta meet my roommate, my bandmate." So that's when I met Mike. And
he's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And then I meet Mike, and I come to find out that we have a common interest in that we both love listening to Art Bell on Coast to Coast AM.
Nice.
And so I guess we could go further back, but our story together as paranormal, whatever you want to call it, groupies,
adventurers,
yes, begins there because our freshman year in college, immediately we're like, okay, we have this in common. Let's talk about it. And we're talking about Art Bell and he would have his ghost to ghost night where everybody just had to call in and tell ghost stories. And so we were talking about that, and we were talking about aliens and just freaking each other out. And that was kind of the beginning of the rapport that Mike and I had as friends that we've maintained and grown through all these years.
Yeah.
So we're all musicians. It's a long story, but eventually I ended up playing some music with Mike and Ben and playing some rock music, and we all headed off. And and the band started playing more and more out of state. And, you know, as Mike mentioned before, a lot of the places that we played at, a lot of, let's just call them like small to mid-range venues.
Yeah.
Not shitholes or anything. But,
We don't call them dive bars.
We don't call them shitholes.
Yeah. But a lot of those
Even though I did play in a place called Hole in the Wall, and I literally stood in a hole in a wall playing.
All right. I hope they paid you extra for the advertising.
He slaps at the bass. He slaps at the bass.
I'm a bass player.
I'm sorry.
I play for a band called LUNATIC. We're hardcore heavy metal.
Our intro music is their stuff.
Yeah, the music that you hear on the intro of our podcast is LUNATIC.
Okay. So you're well aware that these dive bar / shitholes very often happen to be located in very old historical locations that no one else wants for anything else because they're old.
Right.
And so as we're touring and we're like, ooh, this is a spooky old building.
This place is fucking haunted and it kills people.
Yeah.
Let's book a band.
Exactly. And you get to know the bartenders and the sound guy, and they're like, and you know that they're the last ones there. So you just say like, hey, you ever see anything weird here? And so as a band,
story. I seen a guy sniffing cocaine out of it.
I want to know a story, please. Yeah,
and not
that
just
kind of story.
not just the usual drugs and sex story. Like those are great too, but like we expect those. The ghost story's fun. It's like, oh yeah, man, there was like. We did like a bunch of rails. Everybody was high as balls. Okay, that was Tuesday. Let's talk about a ghost story.
Well, So I thought I saw a ghost that night.
Right, exactly. And then just like learning the ghost stories of different places we went to, and we talk about it, as I mentioned before, in the van. And then we even had some of our own little weird paranormal experiences. There may have been people touched on stage.
Oh yeah,
by unseen hands. It's
awesome.
So it's all kind of just. It just fit perfectly. And then with our songs, we like to adventure and experiment with different things that are like, it gets boring after a while just writing about the common topics everybody else does.
For sure.
Well, I think that's why too, like we talked about the violin earlier. That's one of the reasons that, we brought in the more Wendy playing the violin. I mean, because we were playing just bass, drums, and guitar for like 15 years. Really for a long time, just and then it was like, okay, Wendy's also a great violinist, so let's do that. And Ben's a very good pianist, and so let's add in there. And I'm just a fucking bass player, so let's Well,
I mean,
I tell you what, you were railing on that guitar when we saw you.
Thank you very much. I keep working on the acoustic.
Yeah.
And let's not forget, you also, kind of like do the lead vocals, like
that's a
signature sound of a band. So.
That's true. That's part of it.
Yeah.
But it was bringing those new things in.
Yeah.
I do none of that shit.
Yeah.
But you got ears. You listen.
He knows how to listen to music.
I listen to the shit out of music.
I mean,
what's weird though?
We're nothing.
It's funny.
Just think about it like this: you listen to music better than I play it.
That's for sure.
So,
but it's funny because my wife she always tells me, she's like, "How is it that you know every fucking song there is that was ever made?" Because like, it's weird. I have this weird thing talking about like, well, I really love music. I feel it. That's why I talk.
Us too.
I can sing.
We're with you, brother.
Yeah. Well, it's weird. I can sing somewhat, but I can't because I get into music and I feel songs. Certain songs I would never be able to sing because I couldn't. I just get. I mean, it is what it is. I get choked up on some things and I can't. As much as I love them. So my wife's like, how do you know everything? Like every song comes on the radio or even something she'll put on. She's like, how do you even know this? This came out in whatever. And I'm like, I hear it and I know it.
That's because music's a feeling, man. It's like I can remember every freaking lyric and phrase to an Iron Maiden song from 30 years ago, but I can't remember what I ate for breakfast this morning.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
That's because Iron Maiden's fucking sweet and eggs are boring.
Yeah. Bruce Dickinson's the fucking man.
Fuck yeah.
The man.
Yeah.
But anyways, back to what we were saying.
No, but that thing though, like that, they're getting choked up on stage and that the emotion, the music. I think that's why a lot of these we talk about these places are haunted. Are they haunted by the spirits of musicians that came before? I don't know. Do I want to go haunt every shithole I played? Probably not.
No, but
I don't know. It might be fun for a while.
But Mike, you can't like, yeah, it might be fun. You can't deny that, like, when you're at a place like, oh, now I'm trying to think of an example, and I'm
Danny
like,
shit box.
like, no, but
I know it.
Like when we played at, like, say, just for example, you know, I don't know, Shank Hall or something like that in Milwaukee, like a place where a lot of other bands that you respect and know have performed, and you know that there's been big crowds there, and you're like, you can't help but just feel that energy, and you're like, this is an altar.
Yeah.
You know, like,
yes,
we're here to.
Wendy, that's 1,000% right. That's because the concert can be akin to a religious experience, an ecstatic experience is what you would call it.
Excuse me.
I mean, you're doing something and you're playing, and the location is just as important.
And the history, like, we never got to play at CBGB, unfortunately.
Right.
But I can only imagine what it would have felt like to be on that stage, you know, just knowing how many of our idols, like, yeah.
The one date we were offered at CBGB's was like Easter, and like we were coming there the next week. And so they're like, oh, the next week's booked. I'm like, fuck. And then then it was, then it closed down. But it's those kind of places that, like, yes, the place is something and the people are something, and it all comes together, that the sum is greater than its parts. And so I guess that's what we were going to. We were talking about human interaction, and even we were talking about the moon and all that. Like, all that stuff together means people together can create something more than people alone. Yes. And sometimes there's a feeling that we can't explain, that the energy level comes up, and all of a sudden that's paranormal, because it's like we're having communication that's has nothing to do with the physical aspect. It is a spiritual communication, and that often happens. I mean, you talk about getting choked up with music. I've cried on stage when, like, sometimes we're really kicking ass and the song's beautiful and it's going really well and everything's perfect, and then all of a sudden you're like, fuck, it's great. You don't cry like, oh my god, you just, you know, you
just welts up.
You get a tear in your eye because you're really doing it. Yeah. And you feel the momentum of everybody and everything together, and you're like, well, this is one of the best experiences that I can ask for. Yeah. And that in itself is, I don't know if it's supernatural, but it's definitely
something special for sure.
Yeah,
it's an elevated human experience. Yeah. And sure, you might be able to get that with ecstasy. You might be able to get the ayahuasca. You might be able to take the shortcut, right? But the thing is that the shortcuts exist, but then there's the thing where they happen spontaneously and special. And that's what makes it exciting. It's those nights where your buddy comes into town on Tuesday and you have the greatest night of your life. And you're like, I never thought that would happen on Tuesday. And then you try to have a big night on a Friday sometime, and it sucks. And you're like, okay, it's those things that we didn't expect, that we came into with zero expectations, or we, you know, and then all of a sudden our consciousness was elevated. And that sounds like some hippity dippity, you know, past the fucking doobie from coast to coast or whatever kind of thing to say.
Which isn't a bad idea, but go ahead.
No, but it, you know, when you, it's hard to not use the hippie terms, the consciousness, or the, you know, like the psychic medium terms, like, oh yeah, it's hard not to use it, like, because it feels like your consciousness is elevated.
I'm vibing with you, man.
Right,
vibing with you.
You know what I mean, man.
Well, you know, it's like you said, you know, you have a little girl, you said, right, a 4-year-old.
Uh-huh.
It's like when your kid, you know, your kid just says something to you, or comes up and jumps up and gives you a hug out of nowhere. It's a big feeling, you know. Right. It's a big feeling that there's a connection there, man. It's so weird because people tell me,
is it all hormones? You know, you ask the questions like,
that's where I was going to go. People
are we
tell
feeling
me,
things?
oh well, it's just something because of this. I'm like, man. Or they tell me, oh, there's nothing. There's no reason. We live in a simulation. There's nothing here. Your kids mean nothing.
We live in a simulation. Shut the fuck up.
Well, that's why I say, I'm like, look, man, I can honestly tell you that the love that I have for my kids, there's no way that that's not for a reason. Like it's beyond anything that there is.
Well, think about it like this. So, okay, maybe it is just hormones. Maybe it is, so let's say Richard Dawkins is right and it's all bullshit. And so maybe it is just hormones kind of thing. Fine. But spirituality or something like that gives us a lens with which we can understand the way the hormones work in our body.
Yeah.
The way that it gives us a look into relationships. Religion gives us a look into the way of being kind to people when common sense would tell us not to be kind to people.
Right.
Oh yeah, I've had that many times.
And so those kind of things, like over the past centuries, well, maybe we didn't have the science to do it. We did have a mechanism for being kind to each other, for taking care of the people who can't take care of it, can't take care of themselves, for not trying to fucking kill each other all the time. And it ended up being a good and bad in spirituality, organization, all those kind of things. But at the same time, it does give us some kind of mechanism with which we can deal with those feelings. Just like music puts emotion in, it gives emotion a sound.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're like, how can you describe emotion? I don't know, but I can tell you that this song makes me feel it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I was talking about, man. It's
and like you said earlier, there's nothing, and people who haven't experienced it really don't know what it's about, but there is nothing like being on that
fucking
stage
Philistines, and
everything is gelling just right with everybody on the stage, and you get that euphoric feeling. When I get on stage with my band, I turn into a completely different person.
Yeah.
You
feel the power of the...
Nothing else makes me do that,
That's cool.
Fuck you. It's the music. It's that feeling. There's something
it's power.
There,
Well, I was just thinking about this actually recently. I don't remember specifically which show, but we were playing a song that is a song that we've been playing for 20 or 25 years. And it's like we go into the song and then I just get this like feeling and I start to almost have flashbacks through time.
Yeah.
Because I think about like it's like a thread. Like this song is a consistent thread that has been through my life through ups, downs, and I'm like flashing back to other shows playing it where like either great things are happening or I'm going through a really hard time.
Yeah.
And it's just like as I'm playing it, I feel this like, I know this sounds hippy dippy, but I feel this thread of time just kind of like, just I can only feel it when I'm playing that song.
Right.
And it's just like, it's all connecting in my mind. And it's like, I don't know. It is kind of almost like an out of body experience. Like,
I mean, it literally is the soundtrack of your life.
Yeah.
There you go. Because I remember. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You guys ever have this happen to you where you're up on stage, you're playing through your set, you get done with your song, and you're like, yeah, the crowd's like, or whatever,
Or they're like,
and you look down at the set list and you think, fuck, I don't know how that song starts. And then as soon as somebody else in the band makes a noise, it all comes flooding back. It's like, how the hell does that happen?
It's amazing.
I do that at just about every show. I'll look down at one song and be like, fuck, I don't remember how that song starts.
I mean, I think that shows, when we talk about paranormal experiences, we talk about the way that we see the world, that shows the limit of our prefrontal cortex, right?
Yeah.
So we look at something and we're in the moment, we're like, shit, I don't even know what that's going to be. Or this happened to me. So we played all night Friday and Saturday this weekend, right? So we probably played 75 or 80 songs throughout the weekend.
Yeah.
Because we didn't even do that much repeat. But we did some repeat for the fucking hits, man. You got to play the hits.
Yeah.
Play the hits.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot, we just threw in a lot. I mean, everything. We know like 100 and some songs that we can just come off, and we've written several hundred that would take a little work to put in. And so we're on stage, and I'm looking at the song, I'm like, what's that one like? And then you hear the opening chord, and then I don't know the words until I start singing them.
Right.
Until you open your mouth, yeah.
And when I open my mouth, it's all there.
Yeah.
That's how
it's weird how that happens.
That's what I was saying. Like, that's exactly what happens to me with, I'm not in a band or nothing, but that's what my wife says. She's like, as soon as the song comes on, you just start singing the whole fucking
It's
song.
there. Like, even if you don't even
Well, because we process those things in a different part of our brain, and especially with Wendy and I, we've played these songs so many times that they exist and it usually it really is with our, even better than covers. You think of a cover, you'd know better because you heard on the radio so goddamn many times. But it is with our own songs because we were there when the song was born. We were there when it was developed. We were there when recording it and going over it and then playing it at shows. That now you're like, we did stuff. I mean, we played a song on Saturday night. We have not played probably live since 2015, right? And Flower Child, right? We probably haven't played that live in forever. I looked over the all day state fair set list, and we hadn't played that in a long time. And then we just go into it. And then it was like, that was it. I didn't have to, like, nobody.
Yeah, it was like the easiest song on the whole set list.
Right. We didn't look at each other. Like, we didn't look at each other like, uh-oh. Let me think about it. It was just like, hey, guys, and I just called it as an audible. I'm like, hey, guys, let's do this song. And they're like, great. And that was it. And it just went. It just went. And, like, it wasn't even, like, there were no mistakes. You're like, shit. And we hadn't played that song together in 6 years.
Wow.
And that's the kind of thing is
burned into your soul.
Right. The pathways. So you're talking about, the pathways in our brain. Those neurons for that song exist, and it's really smooth to get from one place to another.
Yeah.
Now you think, so music takes us to those places, ecstatic, spiritual, because it doesn't go through the prefrontal cortex. And I know that sounds like fucking science fiction or whatever. Yeah. It doesn't go through the part of your brain that deals with.
It sounds like science.
Right. It sounds like fire.
It sounds like bullshit.
Science. But really, when you talk about that area, what I mean is there's a part of our brain that's thinking about, what do I got to do tomorrow? Like tomorrow, I'm like, oh shit, I got to take those lights to Guitar Center, and like all those kind of things. Like, so there's a part of the brain that makes you think about your immediate schedule and doing stuff, and like, are the bills paid? Did I get the check out? Did all these things happen?
Did I put pants on? Did I put pants on?
That's easy for me.
Did I or should I?
The answer is always no. I'm Porky Pigging it on Zoom today.
Yeah.
That's all, folks. And so it doesn't go through that area. So it doesn't go through that processing that we do, the immediate processing. And I think that's how a lot of paranormal stuff is. So when people talk about, so my sister had a paranormal experience at a place called the Old Baraboo Inn in Baraboo, Wisconsin. And Wendy and I were playing that night. We did an acoustic set like we did at Haunted America. And we did like a live podcast recording, and people were doing ghost hunting there. And this is it was a train station, and then it became they said it was a whorehouse for a while, a house of ill repute.
Yeah, I like it.
I don't know the correct way to say it today. I mean, every time you say an old timey whorehouse word, it sounds like you're being disrespectful to sex workers.
Yeah.
It was a
disrespectful to sex workers.
Yeah, it was a house. It was a house where people sold sex.
It was a speakeasy.
Yeah. And so it was all these different things. And now it's a bar, and they do ghost hunts there, and they get a lot of activity. And so my sister, who does not have a lot of paranormal experiences, had a paranormal experience there where she saw an orb, not through a fucking camera or anything, but she saw an orb circle, come at her face, and go away. Now, she saw it. She didn't think about it until 2 days later, and then she remembered it. And so don't you think you see something crazy and you're immediately going to be shitting your pants? Like, oh my God, I saw it. Like, it wasn't an orb that was actually just a digital artifact in the camera. This was an orb in real life coming towards me and coming away. And that's how I think a lot of paranormal experiences are. Our friend Brad from Toronto tells us a story at the Michigan Paracon a few years ago. Him and his husband wake up in the middle of the night. They're camping, and they wake up for a half an hour. He said we watched the stars dance in the sky, and then we went back to bed and to sleep. The next day we didn't talk about it. A day later, we're like, hey, you remember we woke up in the middle of the night, sat outside our tent, and watched stars move around in the sky for half an hour? Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
And so
Is that weird?
Right? Is
Yeah, why
that
didn't we
weird?
talk
And
about that?
if we'd have seen that, like we'd have been talking, I'd been called up fucking the news, the Weekly World News, the
Well,
National
you
Enquirer.
say that now, but you don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. Like sometimes the paranormal experiences are so far outside the things that we can process with our everyday brain that it takes the rest of the rumination inside of our head and then it going back into the subconscious and stuff like that to come out and then be able to figure it out and make sense of it.
Yeah, you gotta quit using big words.
Yeah.
So
Like,
And
it's
you-
just,
Yeah.
uses the butt part of your brain.
Yeah, use,
Yeah, there you
use,
go.
use your butthole brain. Man, guys, I tell you what,
That is
I don't.
awesome, man.
I know that if we don't stop at some point in time, we'll just keep talking.
We'll be talking forever.
Like
ever.
Fair.
so.
He's like, I know. You're
However,
done with me.
trust me, we did a 5-hour interview one time
Yeah.
with people from England. We had two
No,
directors.
Oh,
and two
you guys are awesome. We could.
We
talk
were
to you
trying
guys
to
all
beat
night.
that record, but now you
Yeah.
guys busted
We would-
it.
Now
We were
Ryan's
trying to-
gonna fuck it up.
We were trying to beat them down 1776 style.
Six style, baby. Where's my fucking tea?
Yeah.
Where's my tea?
We're not
No,
Boston.
No, man,
Remember-
this has been freaking awesome. I'm serious. We'll just keep on talking, and I know that
sure.
Yeah, you guys are awesome, man.
Thank
You
you.
guys are awesome. Thank
we
you.
will. We'll do our little outro here, and then we'll talk to you real quick before we hang up. So,
Sounds great.
Sounds good.
Thank
man,
you.
guys,
Thanks so much for being on the show.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
That was awesome.
Oh, sure. We had a nice time.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
all right, horror fam. That was the podcast. It's a long one.
That was awesome. Mike and Wendy from Sunspot and the Rockstar Paranormal.
Yeah, that's.
Just phenomenal. Man.
We would keep talking,
Phenomenal.
but
We could talk to them all night.
You know.
They were kick ass.
they were like, "Hey, can you guys get us out of here?"
Yeah.
No. But anyways, no, man, they're
Ryan,
awesome.
stop talking to me.
We love you guys, horror fam. Thanks for your support as always. You guys are awesome. But more importantly, as always, until next time, keep it creepy.